Again, this weekend, Georgia Southern, with their record coming in 10-3, 1-0 in conference play, head to Coastal Carolina along the Grand Strand in Conway, South Carolina, as we're joined now by the ESPN voice of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers and Sam Weiderhaft. Sam, appreciate you joining us, bud.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. Excited to talk some women's hoops.
You know, it's weird. You started off as the radio voice last year for Coastal Carolina. Because of all the cancellations last year, you and I still have not gotten to meet.
Yeah, no, you're right. We had 3 games, I think, get canceled and postponed for later dates, and all against Georgia Southern. So we're waiting on that trip to come to Statesboro, but it hasn't happened in 2 years.
Take us into this team, 10-2, a little bit of a tough loss against Troy back on Thursday, 91-80 over in Troy. But you were with the team all of last year, and it was a tough year a year ago. You had a couple of different players opting out because of COVID. 3-15 last year, 0-13 in conference play. But in less than a year, you turned that around to 10-2. You guys were receiving votes in the last poll.
It's like night and day from last year's team to this year's team. I mean, the guard play is better, and you've seen leaps and bounds from players like Janine Camp, and even Asia Blunt has gotten better. But the big thing that's made this team so much better in the non-conference play has been the freshmen and the newcomers. I mean, there were 8 newcomers to this team, 7 freshmen, and 1 transfer, and they've made the biggest impact. Players like Angie Just-Jean, Aaron Freeman, Jordan Newsom have been huge, and I think kind of unexpected for head coach Jada Williams. I know she wanted them to be good, and she knew they were going to make a big impact, but to be this good, especially in the non-conference season, and then Angie Just-Jean had a great game against Troy, so I think that's kind of shocked her a little bit in the best way possible. And this team is really playing like a team now, as opposed to what last year was when we had so many stops and starts, players testing positive left and right. I mean, they didn't really get that chance to gel together. This team is really close. I see them around campus all the time. They're always at the men's basketball games, and they're just doing things together. So that's the team chemistry part, and it's really showing up on the court. They're really happy with how they turned out playing in the non-conference games.
Last year, it seemed like every time that you guys got any kind of momentum whatsoever, there was a COVID stoppage, either for you guys or for who you were playing. What was it like last year whenever you felt like you had something brewing, it was time to shut it down?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, just for me personally, being the broadcaster, I'm like, all right, we're finally getting games in. Here we go. And then a stop. But I couldn't imagine what it was like for the players. I mean, they just like you said, as soon as they felt like they were finally kind of playing together and starting to get things to click, another pause. I think there were 17 or 18 games total that got postponed and later canceled. So it was just really frustrating. And that's what Coach Williams would always tell me. This is just a really frustrating year. She would always tell me that she was looking forward to next year when things were back to normal. But it was a very frustrating season for everybody involved, and we're glad that's in the past.
Despite as bad as last year was, if it could have been more consistent, if you could have stayed on court a little bit longer, is this something that could have happened last year, or did this team need the time to have an off season, to have a lot more time together for this to be able to come to fruition?
I think they needed some time. I think just last year losing 70% of your scoring with DJ Williams graduating and not really having a lead, a big scorer at the beginning of the season. Asia Blunt kind of rised up at the end of it. But, I think this team needed an offseason to get together. We needed those new players. Coach Williams has told me the guard play this season is a lot better than what she had last year. She's having players play more traditional roles. I mean, last year, Tyra Brown was our main point guard, and that's not traditionally what she is. She's more of a shooting guard. And now with the addition of Aaron Freeman and Jordan Newsom and Angie Just-Jean, she's able to shoot the ball a little more around the perimeter and do what she's used to doing. So, last year's team with the COVID pauses, it was frustrating, and we never know what that could have been. But this team is definitely just a lot more together, and people are starting to play more of the roles they're used to.
Couple of players I wanted to ask you about individually for this Coastal Carolina team, and when you're talking about Chanticleer women's basketball, especially this year, you've got to start with Asia Blunt out of Pennsylvania, 18 points a game, almost 9 rebounds a game. What is it about what she is doing that has really elevated her game to the next level?
Just her toughness and aggressiveness. I mean, we're always trying to get the ball down low to Asia, and whether she's throwing up just a crazy shot or she's drawing a foul, she is really useful on the court. And that's something she told me that she was working on in the offseason, was just ball handling and just being more of a leader on the court for these underclassmen. And I mean, it's evident when you watch Coastal women's basketball. You see all the freshmen playing, and Asia Blunt, whenever there's a break in the action, she's always up and trying to teach them just about the college game and the speed of the college game. So she has been huge this year, obviously. Big player last year. She's added a few more things to her game this year, but she's been really fun to watch. I mean, whether she's scoring down low or she's drawing a foul and getting to the free throw line, which we all know how good she is at the free throw line, she is a huge player for us on the court. There's no doubt about it.
Somebody else you've talked about, Aaron Freeman, a freshman out of Little Rock, Arkansas, leads the team with over 3 assists per game, almost 2 steals a game, also leads the team. And somebody for their first year in college basketball coming in and having that kind of impact, especially at a point guard position where you talked about had a little bit out of position a year ago. How much has she meant to this team?
You know, Coach Williams told me that before the season started, she was the most improved freshman out of all 7 of them throughout the offseason practices. And she's actually had in the preseason scrimmages, she had coaches come up to her and say, Aaron Freeman's going to be a star. Like, this is a player that's going to develop into being a really good player for your team. And she already in year 1 has been awesome. It's really just her athleticism and her ability to see the court and just create plays, which is, like you said, something that we didn't have last year. And now with the addition of her, I mean, she's been huge. She's been able to get the ball down low, distribute around the perimeter, and her defense has also been solid. So Aaron Freeman in her first year has made me really excited to see what she can turn into down the line.
A year ago, when we go east-west, you're seeing half the league. But in the case of Coastal Georgia Southern, same division, you still didn't play because of COVID. So being that there hasn't been a matchup for 2 years, how strange is it to get ready for a team that's so close to you, but you haven't seen them on the court in that long?
It's interesting. You know, I just started my prep today, and I still have the boards I made from last year in preparation for last year's game are all done. So I'm just trying to revamp those right now. But yeah, you know, just like a very close opponent that we haven't seen in 2 years. I'm sure the team is preparing just like they do every week. But yeah, definitely a really interesting situation because, I mean, not only, you know, Coastal had problems with Georgia Southern, but we also had problems with Georgia State last year. I mean, there were, I think, 3 games that were postponed and canceled between us 2, and then we got 1 game in Atlanta against the Panthers. So just excited to see these opponents for the first time for sure.
When you look at this Coastal Carolina team, at what point did you realize, okay, this could be something pretty special, that this team has turned it around into a special season?
Throughout the non-conference, it was kind of tough because, you know, we had Division III teams on there that we were just trying to get some experience from, which actually kind of turned out to be positive with getting all the freshmen in there and getting them used to the college game. I think it was actually our lone loss in non-conference against St. Mary's, you know, West Coast Conference opponent that traditionally has been very good in that conference. Coach Williams was taking on her former college coach in that game. And the fact that we had a lead against them, kept it close the whole time, and it took a buzzer beater for St. Mary's to take off Coastal Carolina, I think that really showed me that this is not what last year was. I mean, last year we had single-digit wins against UNC Pembroke, and now we're playing tough against St. Mary's. So that really showed me that this is a much different team, and they're a lot more competitive. I don't think Coastal's finishing 11th in the Sun Belt like they were picked in the preseason poll.
Sam, really appreciate you taking some time to dive into Coastal Carolina women's basketball. Looking forward to finally getting to meet after you and I have talked for about a year. You saved me a couple hours in the car of not leaving Statesboro on time, but looking forward to it, bud.
Yes, sir, Colin. Thanks for having me on. I was excited to talk about the matchup and definitely excited to watch us on Thursday.
Thank you, man.
Hey, man.
Thank you.
Once again, that's Sam Weiderhaft, the TV voice now. He's gone to the dark side for the TV.
Well, we know somebody else that's done that too.
Yeah,
we'll get to him in a minute.
We're getting there.